Hello hockey fans, and welcome to a new potential series on this channel I like to call Right Player, Wrong Team. The series where we look back at players who spent much of their careers as the face of a franchise, but for one reason or another, they also took to the ice in a short, forgettable stint with a completely different team. In today's pilot episode, we're kicking things off by taking a look at the Great One's trip to Missouri, as we explore Wayne Gretzky's brief tenure with the St. Louis Blues. Before we begin, I just want to mention that almost 80% of you who have watched my videos this month have not subscribed to my channel, so if you do enjoy this video and you want to see more like it in the future, consider hitting that subscribe button. It would really help me out a lot, folks. But anyways, on with the video. Now, most of you probably already know how the majority of Wayne Gretzky's NHL career played out, but allow me to briefly summarise his pre-St. Louis days, just in case any of you have somehow managed to forget about it. With the NHL-WHA merger of 1979, Wayne Gretzky entered the league with the newly added Edmonton Oilers, spent the first 9 years of his NHL career with the team, broke a bunch of league records, won 4 Stanley Cups, and collected a vast treasure trove of individual awards, before being traded to the Los Angeles Kings in the biggest, most earth-shattering trade in NHL history. Once moving to LA in 1988, the Great One would play his next 5.5 seasons in California, become the NHL's all-time leading goals and point scorer, and win several more individual awards, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get his hands on another championship or bring the Los Angeles Kings their first cup. And this is where we pick up the trail. Late in the 95-96 NHL season, the Los Angeles Kings seemed to be falling further and further from clinching a playoff berth, sitting 4th place in the Pacific Division with an 18-31-15 record in 64 games, only 6 points back from the 3rd place Calgary Flames, but the Flames had a pair of games in hand over the Kings. If that wasn't bad enough, reports began to surface suggesting that Gretzky, who was in the final year of his contract with the team, wasn't too happy in Los Angeles anymore, citing his strained relationship with the Kings' new ownership and the franchise's financial difficulties as the primary causes of the growing rift between player and organisation. If the team was constantly winning games and sitting at the top of their division, these issues could easily be glossed over until the end of the year, but the roster's clear lack of success only magnified the team's glaring issues both on and off the ice. Having tried to block out the distractions and focus on carrying the team on his shoulders for much of the year, Gretzky finally decided that enough was enough. He immediately requested a trade from the team, and the bidding war got underway. As you can imagine, there were a number of teams across the National Hockey League who were interested in adding the Great One's talents to their roster. Though rumours began to swirl suggesting the usual suspects, such as the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Vancouver Canucks to be in the hunt, the two emerging frontrunners were quickly discovered to be the St. Louis Blues and the New York Rangers. The Rangers were just 2 years removed from a Stanley Cup championship in 1994, their window to compete for another one was still very much open, and a trade there would reunite Gretzky with former teammate and good friend Mark Messier, whilst the Blues was home to another of Gretzky's good friends in Brett Hull, and Gretzky's wife Janet was a St. Louis native. It was clear that both parties had something to offer Gretzky, so all that was left was for St. Louis to pick a team. After negotiations between the Kings and the Rangers had stalled, since New York wished to lock Gretzky into a contract extension before finalising a trade, St. Louis decided to swoop in and nab the star for themselves at the last minute. On February 27, 1996, Wayne Gretzky was traded to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Patrice Tardif, Roman Vopat, Craig Johnson, a 1st-round pick and a 5th-round pick. So the Blues picked up an ageing yet still very productive Gretzky and were giving the disgruntled star a chance to end both his season and his contract on a high note by making a run at another championship. Regardless of who the Blues gave up or how many assets it took to acquire him, adding the greatest player in league history who was still capable of scoring at over a point-per-game pace into his mid-30s sounds like a pretty good trade if you ask me. So now we know how Gretzky made it to St. Louis, let's take a look at what happened while he was there and see why he didn't stick around for long. Following the trade, Gretzky would join the St. Louis Blues roster, find a place on the team's top line alongside Brett Hull, and reunite with several former Edmonton Oilers whom he hadn't played with since 1988, such as Glenn Anderson, Esa Tikkanen, and Craig McTavish. He would also be handed the Blues captaincy on the spot by the team's head coach and general manager Mike Keenan after he removed it from Shane Corson, and the two players argued as to why the other person should have it, which is probably the most hockey player thing I have ever heard of. Not only that, but Gretzky's arrival in Missouri would immediately turn St. Louis from a cup hopeful to a legitimate contender, thanks to their new 1-2 scoring punch of Hull and Gretzky, their dominant blue line featuring such greats as Al MacInnis and Chris Pronger, and being backstopped by another of Gretzky's former teammates in Grant Fuhr, who would play in 79 of the team's 82 games that season. In fact, by the end of the 95-96 season, the St. Louis Blues would house 7 future Hall of Famers on their roster, showing the rest of the National Hockey League that they had every intention of using this abundance of talent to take home their franchise's first cup at the end of the year. Despite the Blues struggling to play above 500 after the trade with a 6-10-5 record, Gretzky would immediately make an impact for the team, quickly finding chemistry with Hull and scoring 8 goals and 21 points in 18 games to conclude the year. These numbers played their part in helping St. Louis clinch the 5th seed in the Western Conference and a place in the playoffs, but unfortunately, Gretzky wouldn't be the final piece for the Blues' Stanley Cup puzzle. Though Gretzky would rack up 16 points in 13 playoff games, he personally struggled to put the puck in the net, scoring just 2 goals during the postseason, as St. Louis were defeated in the second round of the playoffs in double overtime of Game 7 by the 131-point President's Trophy winners, the Detroit Red Wings. Once their playoff run had come to an end, Keenan and the St. Louis Blues were quick to offer Gretzky another contract to come back to the team next season and try it all again. However, the player and the organisation didn't quite see eye to eye. The Blues may have wanted to retain the services of the greatest NHL player who has ever lived, but GM Mike Keenan had no intention of giving Gretzky any preferential treatment in order to keep him around. In fact, like many of the stars who played for him during his NHL coaching career, Keenan had found a way to rub Gretzky the wrong way, criticising his on-ice performance many times, and even expressing his frustration with the Great One's disappointing postseason production, despite Gretzky being the team's top scorer during the playoffs. Keenan had left such a bad taste in Gretzky's mouth that Wayne vowed he would never re-sign for the team as long as Keenan was still in charge, despite being offered a 3-year, $15 million contract by the Blues, and having initially intended to spend the rest of his career with the franchise after the trade. This feud left the Blues management with a big choice. Either they keep Keenan and lose Gretzky, or they keep Gretzky and lose Keenan. Unfortunately for Blues fans everywhere, the front office would ultimately choose the former, so Wayne Gretzky quickly left the Blues organisation behind, entered free agency, and signed with the previous frontrunner for his services, the New York Rangers, to a 3-year contract on July 21st, 1996. So between his mid-season trade and his signing with New York, Wayne Gretzky spent a grand total of 3 months in a St. Louis Blues jersey, where he played in just 31 total games and scored 37 points. Not exactly what Blues fans were hoping for when the trade was first announced, but hey, at least you got to see him play for your team. There's like 25 other NHL teams that wish they could say the same, you know. Following his departure from Missouri, Wayne Gretzky would take his talents to Broadway, reunite with Mark Messier, and spend the final 3 seasons of his NHL career with the team, where he posted at least 90 points or more in his first 2 years, before posting a 62-point year during the 98-99 season to finish his tenure in New York with 57 goals and 249 points in 234 regular season games. He also helped the team make the playoffs in 1997, where he scored 20 points in 15 postseason games, but the New York Rangers were eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals by the Philadelphia Flyers. Considering he was in his late 30s and he was still putting up impressive numbers during the low-scoring dead puck era, you can see why he was still considered one of the best in the league right until the end of his career. Then, on April 18th, 1999, after the Rangers lost their final game of the season 2-1 in overtime to the Pittsburgh Penguins, Wayne Gretzky officially retired from the National Hockey League. After 20 seasons, 2,857 points, 4 Stanley Cup championships, and a boatload of individual awards, the Great One decided to hang up his skates for the last time, bringing an end to the greatest career the league has ever seen. Though he may be remembered most for his trophy-filled days in Edmonton, his celebrity status in Los Angeles, and his final goodbye in New York, thanks to some rocky relationships with management and the antics of Mike Keenan, Wayne Gretzky would join the St. Louis Blues in 1996 and proudly wear the music note on his chest, but he would only stick around for 3 months of his 20-year career. In doing so, he finally got the opportunity to play alongside a good friend, reunite with some former Oilers teammates, and help the team reach 1 goal away from the Western Conference Finals. He may not have been there for long, but he did play there, no matter if people want to forget that it happened or not. And that's how Wayne Gretzky's tenure in St. Louis made him the right player on the wrong team. What do you guys think about Wayne Gretzky's time with the St. Louis Blues? Also, what do you guys think about this as a series on this channel? Do you have another player that you want me to look at in a future episode? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Antti Hannanen, Chris Gadsby, Connor B, John Plomin, Jordan Whitehead, Paul Malia, Roman from London, The Legacy and Worthless Pieces, as well as a huge thank you to Let's Talk Hockey for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.